Do not dismiss what you have been sensing inside yourself, because the feeling is real, even if you have not been able to explain it. There is a quiet change already moving toward you, one that has been approaching while you were busy, wondering whether your prayers had gone unanswered. The answer you have been waiting for has not disappeared. It has simply been forming outside your view. Today marks the moment when the moon enters Taurus, and this movement carries far more significance than many people realize. Its influence reaches beyond passing emotions. It begins touching your physical body, your relationship with security, your financial foundation, and the way you connect with the people who matter most. At first, the shift may seem almost invisible, but that is often how the deepest transformations begin. Most people only recognize that their lives have changed after they are already standing inside a completely different reality. This is not merely about a single astrological movement appearing on a calendar. It is the culmination of everything that has been building beneath the surface throughout the past week. Pressure has been collecting day after day, almost like steam trapped inside a sealed vessel, forcing every unresolved emotion, every hidden fear, and every exhausted thought closer to the surface. You may have reached moments when you wondered how much more you could carry before something inside you finally gave way. Yet what is breaking open now is not another wave of confusion. Instead, it is making room for something that may have felt impossible only days ago. It is the return of genuine stability, not the temporary comfort that disappears overnight, but the kind that settles into your spirit so deeply that your entire system begins remembering what peace actually feels like. It is the kind of steadiness you have quietly hoped for, the kind you may have whispered about during moments when no one else could hear you. If you've recently noticed an unfamiliar weight resting across your chest, almost as though your heart has been preparing itself for news it cannot yet name, there is an important reason for that sensation. It is not appearing without purpose. Before that reason can fully make sense, you first need to understand why the past 7 days have demanded so much from you. Nothing you experienced was accidental. Every challenge served a purpose. Every delay, every emotional wave, every moment of uncertainty became part of a larger preparation that has been unfolding beyond your awareness. Today begins revealing why all of that was necessary. Looking back honestly, this past week has probably felt exhausting in ways that are difficult to describe. Your thoughts may have refused to slow down, jumping from one possibility to another before you could finish processing the first one. Your inner dialogue may have become louder than usual, making it difficult to find stillness even during moments that should have felt peaceful. If that sounds familiar, understand that you are not imagining any of it. There was a deeper cosmic pattern influencing your experience. On July 4th, Mars formed a conjunction with Uranus in Gemini. That alignment carried the force of sudden electrical energy moving directly through the collective mind. Mars represents action, courage, conflict, urgency, and the instinct to move forward regardless of resistance. Uranus brings disruption, surprise, and rapid change that can overturn expectations in a single moment. Gemini governs thinking, communication, perception, learning, and the countless mental processes that shape your everyday reality. When those energies came together, your mind became the landscape where their combined force expressed itself most intensely. That explains why your thoughts may have felt impossible to organize. It explains why conversations seemed unusually tense, why simple misunderstandings multiplied, why words carried unexpected emotional weight, and why restful sleep became harder to find. Nothing inside your nervous system was failing. Instead, your inner wiring was being forced through a process of recalibration that likely felt uncomfortable precisely because you never chose it. The intensity continued as another important astrological event unfolded. On July 6, the Sun in Cancer formed a square with Saturn in Aries. If the earlier conjunction resembled a sudden flash of lightning racing across the sky, this aspect felt more like standing before a solid barrier that refused to move. Many people experienced it as emotional heaviness, or the frustrating sense that every effort encountered invisible resistance. Perhaps you reached for reassurance only to discover silence. Perhaps you searched for emotional safety and instead met another lesson requiring patience. It may have seemed as though the universe itself was asking you to continue enduring because the process had not yet reached completion. Then yesterday, another significant turning point arrived when Neptune stationed retrograde and the emotional atmosphere shifted in an entirely different direction. Neptune governs dreams, illusion, imagination, spiritual longing, and the personal narratives people create about their worth, their future, and the life they believe they deserve. When Neptune appears to stop before beginning its retrograde motion, something remarkable begins happening. Instead of increasing confusion, hidden truths gradually emerge as the emotional haze starts disappearing. That moment of clarity is not always comfortable. Some people suddenly recognized the truth about an important relationship. Others saw their financial reality without the comforting stories that had softened it before. Still others confronted a deeper understanding of themselves that could no longer be avoided. Whatever truth appeared, it likely carried emotional weight because it challenged beliefs that once felt safe. The illusion that had protected you could no longer survive once genuine clarity arrived. Every experience throughout this demanding week has served a single purpose. The universe has been clearing away what no longer belongs, so that what arrives today has room to enter your life completely. Stability cannot take root where chaos is still being protected. Lasting abundance cannot be received while your hands remain occupied by situations, expectations, or attachments that were never meant to continue with you. This entire process has been quietly encouraging you to release what no longer serves your highest path. Now the moon enters Taurus on Wednesday, July 8th, leaving behind the restless and impatient atmosphere of Aries. The difference becomes noticeable almost immediately, but not primarily through your thoughts. Instead, you begin sensing it through your body itself. Many people underestimate the importance of this transit because they view it as simply another movement of the moon across the zodiac. Traditional astrology offers a much deeper understanding. The moon is considered exalted in Taurus, and that distinction carries profound meaning. It signifies that the moon, the celestial body connected with emotions, instinct, intuition, comfort, nurturing, and the deepest experience of inner security, expresses its greatest strength while moving through this sign. Across the entire zodiac, there is no placement where the moon performs its natural role with greater ease or greater stability. During this passage, it becomes especially capable of restoring balance, rebuilding emotional confidence, calming the nervous system, and reconnecting you with a sense of grounded presence that may have felt absent throughout the intensity of the previous week. As this energy settles more deeply into your experience, you may begin recognizing that everything you endured was leading toward this very moment, and what unfolds next will reveal why every challenge had to happen exactly as it did. If the past several days have left you feeling emotionally drained, mentally overstimulated, and physically depleted, there is a reason your entire being has been craving relief with such intensity. Everything that unfolded throughout the previous week has been leading toward this exact turning point. After enduring the explosive mental intensity created by the conjunction of Mars and Uranus, after confronting the emotional resistance brought by the square between the Sun and Saturn, and after Neptune retrograde dissolved the comforting stories that once allowed you to avoid difficult truths, your inner world has reached a place where it can no longer continue carrying the same weight. The arrival of the moon into Taurus is not a random moment within the astrological cycle. It appears now because this is precisely the energy your mind, your body, and your spirit require after everything they have just survived. The universe did not push you through challenge simply to leave you there. It stretched your limits because it intended to introduce a different experience immediately afterward. Earlier, I mentioned that unusual sensation you may have been feeling across your chest, the quiet pressure that seemed impossible to explain. Now the reason becomes clear. Long before your conscious awareness understood that relief was approaching, your body had already begun preparing for it. Your nervous system sensed the approaching energetic shift before your thoughts could give it a name. That lingering tightness was never simply stress. It was the physical expression of a system remaining on constant alert, holding itself together while waiting for the moment when it would finally be safe to release what it had been carrying. Today, that moment arrives. For many of you, the change will not happen gradually. It may come as an overwhelming wave of calm that seems to wash through your entire body without warning, leaving you unexpectedly emotional because you suddenly remember what peace feels like. Others may discover that profound exhaustion rises to the surface instead, not because something is wrong, but because the body has finally been given permission to stop operating in survival mode after consuming enormous amounts of energy for days. Some of you will notice something even simpler, yet equally profound. You may realize that for the first time in what feels like weeks, your awareness has returned fully to the present moment. The constant mental haze begins disappearing, allowing you to reconnect with your surroundings and experience a sense of grounded reality that had quietly slipped away. This transformation extends beyond emotional comfort alone. It expresses itself through your biology as well. Your heartbeat begins finding a steadier rhythm. Your breathing naturally slows and deepens. The endless stream of racing thoughts gradually softens without requiring constant effort, because the energetic landscape supporting your inner experience has fundamentally changed. There is another reason this particular Taurus moon carries extraordinary importance beyond what many people recognize. It is not simply another monthly transit moving across familiar territory. It is participating in an active healing process that has already begun. Only a few weeks ago, on June 19th, Chiron, known as the wounded healer, entered Taurus. That detail changes everything about the significance of today's lunar movement. The moon is not merely traveling through the sign of Taurus. It is moving across one of the most emotionally sensitive points within the collective astrological picture. Whenever the moon comes into contact with Chiron, the experience reaches far beyond emotional grounding. It activates opportunities for healing that often begin beneath conscious awareness before eventually becoming visible in everyday life. Chiron in Taurus reflects one of humanity's deepest and most private wounds, one that many people carry silently for years without fully recognizing its influence. It is the persistent belief that somehow you are not enough, not valuable enough to receive lasting security, not intelligent enough to create abundance, not gifted enough to succeed, not worthy enough to experience love that remains steady instead of disappearing. This wound rarely exists only as a thought. It settles into the body itself. It reveals itself through the tightening sensation in your stomach when you look at your financial situation. It appears in the instinctive hesitation that surfaces whenever life begins offering something genuinely good, because a hidden part of you already expects it to be taken away. It whispers quietly that lasting happiness belongs to someone else, not to you. Today, the Taurus moon brings gentle but unmistakable light to that wound. It does not expose it to shame you or trap you inside another cycle of fear. Instead, it reveals something much more important. It allows you to recognize that the wound has never represented the truth about who you are. You are not defined by the scarcity that once surrounded you. You are not permanently shaped by the most difficult financial chapter you have experienced. You are not excluded from receiving authentic stability simply because previous disappointments convinced you otherwise. That is why today's grounding carries such unusual depth. Its purpose extends beyond temporary emotional comfort. It reaches into the foundation of how you perceive your own worth, carefully recalibrating beliefs that may have quietly governed your decisions for years. Once that internal foundation begins changing, every structure built upon it begins changing as well. Your relationship with money evolves. Your relationships with other people become healthier. Your sense of personal safety grows stronger because it is no longer rooted in fear, but in a renewed understanding of your own value. The momentum continues almost immediately as another important astrological transition arrives the following day. On July 9th, Venus enters Virgo, and this movement transforms inner stability into something that can be expressed through practical, everyday life. If the Taurus Moon unlocks the entrance to a new chapter, Venus entering Virgo steps inside and begins creating order where disorder once existed. Stability stops existing only as an emotional experience and starts becoming something you can actively build through consistent actions. Venus governs both love and financial matters. While traveling through Leo, its energy naturally emphasized dramatic expression, visible affection, recognition, and the desire for grand emotional displays. Validation often seemed tied to impressive gestures and unmistakable declarations. Once Venus crosses into Virgo, however, that emphasis changes completely. The performance fades into the background, making room for something considerably more enduring. Practical devotion replaces spectacle. Under Venus in Virgo, genuine love is revealed through reliability rather than excitement alone. It appears in the person who consistently follows through, remembers the meaningful details, pays attention to everyday needs, and demonstrates commitment through steady actions instead of impressive words. Those who have remained in relationships sustained only by emotional intensity while lacking dependable support may suddenly recognize that excitement by itself has never been enough. This realization can feel deeply awakening because it shifts your understanding of what lasting partnership truly requires. The same practical wisdom extends into financial matters as well. While today's Taurus Moon awakens a profound desire to experience lasting security, Venus in Virgo begins placing practical methods directly into your hands, making the path toward building that security feel clearer than it has in quite some time. Even something as ordinary as creating a budget may suddenly feel logical, purposeful, and entirely within your reach, revealing that true abundance is strengthened not only through inspiration, but also through thoughtful daily choices. As this energy continues unfolding, you may notice that anything related to disorder, especially in your financial life, suddenly becomes impossible to ignore. Habits that once seemed acceptable begin feeling out of alignment with the future you are trying to build. Spending without intention loses its appeal. Delaying important financial decisions becomes increasingly uncomfortable. Instead, a powerful desire begins rising within you to organize, simplify, eliminate unnecessary loss, and create structures that genuinely support long-term security. This inner shift is not appearing by coincidence. It is the natural continuation of everything the Taurus Moon has already begun awakening inside you. Then another meaningful turning point arrives on July 10th, when Venus forms an exact trine with Chiron. This harmonious aspect acts like the final piece of a puzzle sliding perfectly into place. The emotional healing initiated as the moon traveled through Taurus now joins with the practical wisdom introduced by Venus entering Virgo, allowing both energies to move together effortlessly instead of working separately. Suddenly, the fears that have quietly shaped your relationship with money begin losing their influence. Emotional patterns connected to scarcity no longer feel as convincing as they once did. Relationship dynamics that repeatedly pulled you into the same painful cycles begin loosening their hold, creating space for healthier choices that once seemed impossible. What changes during this moment reaches far beyond intellectual understanding. You do not simply convince yourself that life can improve. You begin feeling the truth throughout your entire being. A new realization settles into your body, showing you that lasting stability and genuine happiness are not opposing forces. Security no longer has to demand that you sacrifice your authenticity, your creativity, or your inner peace. Instead, you begin recognizing that they can exist together, strengthening one another rather than competing against each other. The sequence unfolding from July 8th through July 10th represents one of the most emotionally restorative and therapeutically powerful periods of the entire month. Even if you move through these days without consciously working with their energy, their influence will still leave an imprint on your life. However, if you choose to participate intentionally by embracing the opportunities for healing, restructuring, and self-awareness that appear, you may permanently transform the way you relate to both abundance and love. The foundation established during these 3 days has the potential to reshape beliefs that have quietly directed your choices for years. Although every zodiac sign will experience some degree of stabilization during this period, the cosmic alignment highlights 3 signs that are positioned to receive these influences with extraordinary strength. For them, this is not simply a gentle adjustment or a subtle emotional improvement. It is a profound restructuring of the way they understand themselves and the lives they are creating. If you are a Taurus, this chapter speaks directly to your personal journey. The Moon enters your first house, the area of your chart associated with identity, self-perception, and the way you experience your own existence. This influence is not unfolding somewhere in the background of your life. It reaches directly into the core of who you are. At the same time, Chiron has entered your sign for the first time in decades, bringing forward an invitation that may feel both challenging and liberating. The universe is encouraging you to release the habit of measuring your worth according to possessions, achievements, or external proof, and instead begin recognizing your value as something that exists independently of everything you own. Financially, this transit begins unlocking movement in areas that may have remained frozen for quite some time. Many Taurus individuals have been delaying important choices involving property, long-term investments, or foundational financial assets because fear of making an incorrect decision has outweighed confidence. That hesitation now begins dissolving, not because uncertainty completely disappears, but because something much stronger begins emerging from within. A quiet certainty develops, reminding you that you are worthy of creating something lasting and secure. As your ruling planet, Venus moves into your 5th house, the area connected with joy, creativity, and authentic self-expression. Financial opportunities begin aligning more closely with activities that genuinely inspire you. Instead of continuing to rely solely on work that drains your energy, circumstances begin encouraging income through paths connected with what truly brings your spirit to life. Within your relationships, another important realization unfolds. You have reached the point where emotional instability no longer feels acceptable. Constant uncertainty, unpredictable behavior, and relationships that keep your nervous system trapped in anticipation lose their appeal. The Venus-Chiron trine on July 10th encourages you to openly acknowledge desires you may have previously dismissed out of guilt or fear. Consistency becomes attractive. Loyalty becomes essential. Emotional safety becomes something you recognize as a necessity rather than an unrealistic expectation. What may surprise you most is what follows after you stop accepting less than what genuinely supports your well-being. Either the person who truly belongs in your life, or a healthier expression of an existing relationship, begins revealing itself with a level of clarity that feels unmistakable. For Virgo, an entirely different but equally significant transformation begins unfolding. Venus enters your 1st house, placing the planet associated with love, beauty, attraction, and financial prosperity directly into the area governing your identity and the impression you make upon the world. This is not an everyday occurrence, and when it happens, noticeable change often follows. For a long time, you may have preferred working quietly behind the scenes, refining every detail, solving problems, supporting others, and placing your own needs further down the list. This transit gently brings you forward, encouraging others to recognize qualities that have always been present but frequently overlooked. Although that level of visibility may initially feel uncomfortable, The attention arriving now carries a very different quality. It is not dramatic or overwhelming. It reflects sincere appreciation that has been earned through consistent effort. Financially, your natural ability to attract opportunities becomes significantly stronger. Investors, employers, collaborators, and beneficial connections may begin appearing with surprising ease. Yet this blessing requires your willingness to receive it. Your first instinct may be to minimize your accomplishments, dismiss compliments, or convince yourself that what you offer is nothing extraordinary. Resist that impulse. The universe is restoring balance where you have accepted less recognition than you deserved for far too long, especially through the ways you have underestimated your own value. In matters of the heart, another deeply meaningful realization begins taking shape. You may discover that much of your life has been guided by the belief that affection must be earned through usefulness, constant service, or by becoming the one who fixes every problem before allowing yourself to receive love. As the Taurus Moon continues its journey, it reaches your 9th house, the part of your chart connected with higher wisdom, personal beliefs, and the stories you have accepted as truth about yourself. What begins happening here is far more profound than a passing emotional shift. It starts dissolving an old pattern that has quietly shaped your relationships for years. Somewhere along the way, you learned to believe that love had to be earned through constant effort, endless giving, or proving your value by solving everyone else's problems. That belief may have felt practical, even responsible, but it was never the whole truth. The grounding energy of the Taurus Moon gently begins removing that conditioning, allowing a different realization to emerge. Your existence does not require constant justification. Your worth does not depend on how much you accomplish for someone else. You do not have to become indispensable before you deserve genuine affection. Simply being yourself is enough. If you are a Virgo who is currently single, pay close attention to the people who enter your life during this period. The energy surrounding the connections you attract is noticeably different. Instead of drawing people who respond only to what you can do for them, you may begin attracting individuals who appreciate who you are beneath your accomplishments. If you are already in a relationship, another kind of healing becomes possible. Watch what happens when you release the need to oversee every detail, fix every problem, or carry every responsibility. As you allow yourself to receive support instead of constantly providing it, the emotional atmosphere between you and your partner has the opportunity to soften in ways that may surprise you. For Capricorn, an entirely different transformation begins unfolding. You've spent much of your life constructing emotional barriers that appeared responsible from the outside. Discipline became your language of protection. Emotional distance became something you justified as focus and productivity. Vulnerability often seemed inefficient, almost like a distraction from the larger goals you believed you were meant to pursue. For a long time, those strategies helped you survive and succeed. This week, however, they begin reaching their limit. What once protected you now prevents something greater from entering your life. This is not the universe taking something away from you. It is inviting you into a higher expression of yourself. As the Taurus Moon illuminates your 5th house, the area connected with joy, romance, creativity, pleasure, and authentic self-expression, it shines light on the part of your life that has often been postponed. Achievement, responsibility, and legacy have naturally commanded most of your attention, while happiness itself has frequently been treated as something to enjoy only after every obligation has been completed. Yet there is always another task waiting, another goal to accomplish, another responsibility demanding your attention. The finish line keeps moving, and your own joy keeps getting delayed. The universe is now asking you to stop postponing the very experiences that nourish your spirit. Financially, an important shift also begins taking shape. Opportunities may begin appearing more quickly than usual, requiring thoughtful action without endless hesitation. Your instinct has often been to analyze every possibility until absolute certainty appears. But the grounding influence of this earth energy supports a different approach. It strengthens your ability to trust your practical instincts while remaining wise and measured. This period is not encouraging reckless decisions. Instead, it supports strategic expansion guided by confidence rather than fear. Yet the greatest transformation for Capricorn does not occur within finances alone. It reaches much deeper into your emotional foundation. On July 26th, Saturn, your ruling planet, stations retrograde in your fourth house of home, family, and emotional roots. Even before that date arrives, its influence has already begun making itself known. It quietly encourages you to examine the protective walls first created during childhood, barriers that may have followed you into every important relationship throughout your life. At the same time, Venus traveling through Virgo activates your ninth house of philosophy, meaning, and shared vision. This influence may introduce someone new, or deepen an existing connection with someone whose values align naturally with your own. Rather than being based upon convenience, appearance, or social status, this relationship is built upon a shared purpose and a common direction for the future. That possibility may feel both beautiful and intimidating, because it asks you to reveal something far more important than your accomplishments or professional identity. It asks you to allow another person to truly know you. The grounding provided by the Taurus Moon offers the emotional safety necessary to begin lowering those defenses. Accepting that invitation may become one of the most meaningful choices you make. The story unfolding today extends far beyond the present moment. What begins with the Taurus Moon is only the opening movement of a much larger sequence that continues building toward one of the year's most significant astrological alignments. On July 29th, the Sun forms an exact conjunction with Jupiter in Leo, an event widely recognized for its extraordinary potential to expand confidence, visibility, opportunity, and personal growth. Yet the true power of that alignment depends upon the preparation taking place right now. The emotional stability established under today's Taurus Moon, the practical systems developed while Venus travels through Virgo, and the healthy boundaries strengthened through the healing trine between Venus and Chiron on July 10th, become the very foundation upon which that future expansion depends. Jupiter magnifies whatever already exists. If unresolved chaos remains in place, that chaos may simply become larger. If genuine stability has been established instead, then the blessings symbolized by the Sun and Jupiter have something strong enough to grow. This is why today's energy deserves your full attention. It represents far more than a single, meaningful day. It becomes the cornerstone supporting everything else that unfolds throughout the remainder of the month. Beyond that, it marks the beginning of an even longer cycle, extending across the next 8 years, as Chiron continues moving through Taurus, gradually reshaping humanity's collective understanding of value, self-worth, security, and what it truly means to experience enough. You are not merely observing another planetary transit. You are standing at the threshold of a generational transformation. The fact that you felt drawn toward this message suggests that something within you already recognized its importance. You are not simply witnessing change from the sidelines. You are becoming part of the people through whom that change will be expressed. Stability is not only arriving for your benefit, it is beginning to move through your life so that it can influence everything you touch. Before the moon eventually leaves Taurus and the energetic atmosphere begins changing once again, allow yourself to reflect on one final truth. The stability you have long desired was never designed to depend entirely upon external circumstances. It was never meant to exist only because of a larger paycheck, a perfect relationship, or ideal conditions finally appearing. The true purpose of the Taurus Moon is not to hand you something you have been missing. It is to awaken the strength that has quietly existed within you all along, hidden beneath years of survival mode, scarcity thinking, and the exhausting belief that every peaceful moment had to be earned. Today, the universe places a mirror before you, not to remind you of what remains absent, but to reveal the qualities that have always belonged to you. Your patience, your resilience, your quiet endurance, your unwavering capacity to remain standing through every challenge. The improvements arriving in your finances are real. The positive changes appearing in your relationships are equally real. Yet both of those outcomes are the result of something even more important. They begin after you truly believe, not only as an idea, but as a deeply embodied truth, that you are worthy of the life you have envisioned for yourself. Once that understanding settles into your nervous system, as naturally as the deep breath your body has been waiting to release, every other area of life begins responding. Relationships that belong in your future remain present. Connections that no longer serve your growth naturally fall away. Financial opportunities begin moving toward you instead of constantly slipping through your hands. Anxiety gradually releases its grip, not because the outside world suddenly becomes perfect, but because your relationship with yourself has fundamentally changed. That is the deeper meaning of the Taurus Moon. It is not simply teaching stability, it is restoring self-worth. From this day forward, that renewed understanding influences every step you take, every decision you make, and every opportunity you choose to accept, because somewhere deep within yourself, you finally recognize, without uncertainty and without hesitation, that you belong exactly where you are, that you are fully deserving of everything that is now beginning to unfold before you. Thank you for spending this time with me and sharing this journey. If this message resonated with you, and you would like to continue exploring future astrological insights together, I invite you to subscribe and become part of this growing community. I would also love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments, because your perspective may encourage someone else who is walking a similar path. Until we meet again, take good care of yourself, stay open to what the universe is revealing, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.